every national daily story to educate ourselves, and I welcome you to another opportunity like that. So, in the stories today, is always all this almost all the stories are talking about the building collapse at Ikoyi, and I feel this is another opportunity for us to talk to advance the talk about building and the disasters that may be lurking around when we are considering what we build and how we build. Factors that are around it. Now, on the Daily Sun, 6 dead, many trapped in Lagos 21-story building. Now, this is this day it says collapsed 21-story Ikoyi building. Sanwo-Olu orders immediate probe. On the next one, it says quit complaining, move on. Osinbajo charges you. Those ones are normal politics. Now, 10 die as 21-story building collapses in Lagos. Now, designer warned of tragedy. What that simply means is that we are getting to the factors, one of the factors that are likely, or one of the factors usually responsible for some of these collapses we hear about. Now, this one's made story because, number one, because of the size, it's 21 story. Number two, because of the location, okay, and the nature. So this one, but that is not to say buildings don't collapse nearly every week. And not only in Lagos, almost everywhere in Nigeria. And these are some of the things we need to concern ourselves about when we discuss. Because whether we like it or not, everybody is busy with one building project or the other. If you are not building, you are considering. If you are not considering yet, you will still. So it's very important we always educate ourselves and enlighten ourselves about these things every time. And the last paper says 21-story Ikoyi building collapse. 4 dead, 3 rescued, many trapped. Now, this is where we want to talk. What are the factors usually responsible for collapses? I mean, over the past, say, 10 years in Nigeria, we have heard about buildings that collapsed. And the causes have always ranged from either low quality of materials used or, poor skill of the engineers, the job you give. Some people just look for Shabame calling me, any bricklayer on the roadside, And those ones, in most cases, you are just building maybe just a duplex or something that is just not a story building at least. Most of these buildings that you see do not even last. They are not built to. They don't project years they will last. They just tell you Shama Hello. Just be living inside it. Some are lucky that okay, you live in it for 10, 15, 20 years and you are fine. Some are not lucky. Some collapse even while the construction is still ongoing. In which cases we have talked about low quality materials used for such buildings. I'm not a building expert or engineer, don't make mistake, but as a keen observer and who has reported about cases of building collapses in the past years, especially I was at the coroner inquest regarding the collapse of Synagogue Church in Lagos. So you will be hearing things like, oh, it is not the approved design that they end up trying to build. And those ones are also factors responsible in many cases for which buildings collapse. For instance, if you look at this particular one, the engineer, look at it on the punch. The designer had warned of tragedy. You know why? Because he had already told them the design will carry so number of stories. And then another thing that we must consider at all times is it covetousness now? I don't like to sound as if I'm attacking or abusing somebody, but let's face our facts. I have seen cases where somebody is building. You are still in the process of building. You had a different design. Okay? You now saw another person, maybe the next street, also embarked on their own project. And suddenly you just feel like, building 10 years but not a mepa. We try to compete in most cases. You had a different design for which you embarked on your own project. You now saw another one and you become attracted and distracted. You now want to outdo that other person. Then the next thing is because you don't want people to say his own building is superior to mine. or is more fancy, or is higher or taller, you now want to raise it more, or you now want to change the design midways. It's faulty to do such, because if you want to build something like that later, you may always go and look for another piece of land and do that. Some land, some land cannot carry the weight you are putting on them. Yeah, some land cannot carry the weight you are putting on them. That is why it is always proper to first examine the land, determine the design, give job to qualified engineers who will look at it and tell you this is what you can build here. Very important. So imagine the building that is not yet being occupied. Workers are trapped while still working. Now let us say the now commissioning that said is now ready, or ready for me. From time, I'm always scared of buildings with height. Not because I don't trust who built it. What do you call that? Is it aerophobia or something? Anything that has so much height. And I'm looking at it. Sometimes when I visit some people and their house is like located at, say, like 10th, 11th floor. When I put my arm across the railing and I look down, I'm like, Shegun, hey, what if this thing, the structure is already weak? You now want to go and stand on the edge and rest on the railing. You understand? Ọlọ́run ló lẹ̀ mí wá, as Sunday Igboho will always say. But let's be factual. Fọlọ́run ṣọ́nà, kó má lọ gun railing ní 12th story building. You understand? Except you are, what you call this, aero gymnastic, or I don't know. Otherwise, it's not. So if you want to build, consider all those. Now, covetousness, ojukokoro, in most cases, or this thing can still continue up to the 50th story. You are calling for something else, and you are calling for disaster. Let's put it straight. So covetousness is another cause. Corruption is another cause, because if there is no corruption, you see many buildings that what they approved for it is not what they eventually ended up building. And it is not even no sound. Somebody said no sound. Another person said loud and clear. Please check your volume. So, although I'm not using earpiece, but I can see the audio meter buzzing. I think it's clear. If you can hear me, please just say, let me know. If you cannot hear me, let me also know. Now, you will see buildings, and the people who approved the building. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, God bless you. Now, the people who approved it will not keep going back to check whether the designer, the engineers, or the workers, or the owner, God bless, or the owner has not begun already to exceed the original plan or design. Consequent upon that, disasters happen. Now, the disasters that happen do not only happen to the owner, maybe in terms of risking fund or losing money that they have, expended, but even to the workers who are working there. You are endangering their lives. So this goes to the people who are engineers working on site. Check plans very well. If the owner is already exceeding or going outside of the scope, please do not put your own life in their hand. Then number 3, you're also endangering the neighbors. Yes, because that place where that disaster happened, for instance, is going to be a tourist location for the next, only God knows. They now begin to cordon off, and if your compound leads to another neighbor's house, you are going to be causing them inconvenience. So if you notice anybody building something that is out of plan in your area, call out to the authorities. Make noise, because they will inconvenience everybody, and it's not nice. It's not nice. The other day, it was one area. I don't want to mention the name, because I don't want people to be saying they built a gigantic church in one location where traffic flow was usually a problem before. Then the question is, who approved such gigantic church building to be at such location? If you eliminate corruption, it was almost impossible that anybody will approve that you make such building in that kind of location. You see, because it's a church after all. We know it's a church. We know it's a worship center. That is not license. That is not license for you to now go and cause inconvenience to people. Somebody wants me to mention name. Let me not do it. You know why? I've learned one thing about Nigerians. It's not as if we mention the name, it's not as if you want to use it to do anything. You just want for your own sensational purpose, like you just want to know. No. But the fact is, okay, we have mentioned name, for instance, before. We have mentioned names of people who are doing. People just edit and that's it. You will not even unfollow them on social media. Last song gone, let alone of take any action. We know. So why put me to why make me confront them so that it will now look like Shegun is the one fighting them? No, Nigerians don't care. Nigerians don't care. But we are just saying this for knowledge purpose, because the reason we do this is not because we are wasting the words. No, it's because we can use it to enlighten ourselves in order to take corrective actions in future. You understand? To take corrective actions in future. So that we can know, we can learn, and then we can use the information to guide ourselves in future or in future dealings. Not the one that Pepe said this and that, and then the next thing, Nigeria. Anyway, let me not go into why I don't want to be mentioning names again. A lot of people just see and say, you attacked my GO. We are not attacking the GO. We are only talking about a singular act that should not be and should be corrected. But instead of them to take the message and the lesson, they say, oh, you attacked my church. You abused my GO. Really? 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 You see? But look around you. You don't need me to mention a prominent name. Look around you. There are buildings that do not have approval. There are buildings that are out of the scope of plan. Yeah, look around you. You don't need me to mention any prominent name. Look around you. Look around you. You will find them. You will find all those. They are around you. Look around. Some people say, oh, I live in a high-rise place. It cannot happen. This one happened in Ikoyi. This one, and in fact, it even made news because it happened in Ikoyi. These things happen nearly every week in Lagos and other places, Ogun and other. It happens every time. The ones that make news are the ones that happen in the high rise. That's why they make news. Synagogue Church made news because it's a popular place. It's not to say only Synagogue Church collapsed that year. No. Or even that week. No. Because I remember during Fashola, there were so many building collapses everywhere in Lagos. Either from loose, and Fashola tried to prosecute them. But powerful people. Some of you will also remember this one, that popular place at Lekki, then I will remember the name. Oh, it happened everywhere. So covetousness. Oh, this is what the engineer advised that we can build here. Yeah, Nigerians don't care, so why should I mention name? You won't even unfollow them on social media. The only way they will use the information is say, Shegun attacked that GO. I'm not interested. We only want to be informed so that we can use the information to guide ourselves. That's all. So, now, covetousness is out of scope of the original design. Don't proceed. Limit yourself to that design. Put your accessories and live in it. But do you know another thing that is funny is that most of these buildings that we see that are collapsing, they are not built for the owner's residential purpose. They are built for business. So that's why I say covetousness. Out of the interest to maximize gain, you buy one plot of land, you want to put 100 stories on it. I'm not saying that is what happened in the case of this Ikoyi building, but I'm saying some that may be similar or related. As a result of covetousness. Okay, you want to build a business plaza where people can come and rent space, and you want to be collecting your money, shebi. Collect rent every year in a high rise location. The engineer gave you design and say what we can build here would be like so number of stories building. Do it in good faith, be collecting your rent and but no, you can go 5 more now. If I can be collecting, say, by like say 6 million per apartment every annually, multiply by how many stories? Covetousness. I'm not mentioning name. I'm just saying let's be careful, you know. Being able to stay at that number of stories that is efficient, effective, is better than losing the whole thing completely. Now people are trapped. They are still looking to rescue them. Ojukokoro. Gentlemen and ladies, corruption is another thing I mentioned. Who approved, or they approved the excess? Because we later learned when we were receiving testimony in the case of a particular coroner's inquest into the cause of death of people on the site. They said, they obtained approval for an initial number of heights or stories. Later, they sought modification. I don't know. How did we get here? Corruption. They will bribe some people in the building agency to come and re-examine and reapprove. Well, for what? For what? Corruption. You see? But all these things up there, that building, if it did not collapse while under construction, will still eventually, it was only going to still collapse anyways. It may only sustain itself for maybe a year or two or so, after which PM is gone. You understand? So we seriously need to start putting in mind all these important factors. I don't want to go beyond this for now, okay? But number 1, materials. Number 2, check the land very well. Number 3, check your design. Number 4, don't go beyond scope of what engineers and approval authorities agree for. Number 5, don't be covetous. Don't like to do too much. Do what is okay. It's okay. I mean, the money you want to use to raise additional 5 stories on a building, get another land. Even in your village, get larger land. Build there for future. Yes, now. So instead of crashing the whole thing on one building. Gentlemen and ladies, while talking about future of buildings, we already started talking about materials of building and the advantages of what you build. We started telling you about this home solution, completely green solution, which is the future of homes. And this is where I want to close it for now. Listen to Adeola Fayaun. This will interest you.
Really inspired by this man's story, even though he's paying us to talk about the ad. But before we get to the ad, ladies and gentlemen, please meet Mr. Abiodun Akinyemi, a man who is looking to solve the big chunk of the housing crisis that we have in Nigeria by making affordable, self-sufficient homes. This kind of homes are becoming more and more popular, by the way, because they are efficient and they are environmentally friendly, and then it costs less to make them if you think about it in the long run. Anyway, before I tell you about the smart homes that he's building, let me tell you a little bit about his story. He's based in Canada right now, and he decided to build a house in Lagos, Nigeria, where he's from. But upon making inquiries, the cost of building a house has increased significantly since he moved to Canada. So instead of using concrete brick throughout his construction, he substituted it with laterite, and he was able to save 30% of the construction cost. Laterite has a lot of advantages, by the way, including warming your home during the cold weather, cooling your home in the hot season. It's cheaper because it's readily available. It's everywhere in Nigeria. It has high clay content, which means it can hold more water. Laterite gives you better air quality. So if you build your house with laterite, you can breathe in better air quality. You can even recycle it. So if you build a house with laterite and you don't like it, you can break down the house and use the brick to build another house. And that's just to name a few of the advantages. But he didn't stop at building his personal house. He decided to make his house self-sufficient, off-grid, which means that he's not going to be dependent on the electricity from the Nigerian government. So he's using solar power, and he's also not not going to be using power generator, so there will be no noise, no air pollution. At the same time, he's not using the regular sockaway that everybody uses in Nigeria. He's disposing his own waste material by decomposing it, and he's generating his own water. So once the house is completed, he doesn't need anything from them. And this is why they call this home self-sufficient, off-grid homes. That alone inspires me. The fact that he was able to find an alternative to just spending so much money on building a house, and the fact that he doesn't have to depend on the government, he made himself a self-sufficient house. That is the inspiration for me. But then he took it a step further. So after learning from his own experience, he wants to do the same for others, except that he wants to do it better. If you see the picture of the house, you may not be too impressed by the aesthetic, but he calls this the experimental house, because what he has decided to do is to now mass produce this kind of house for other people. In case anybody out there is interested in having a house that will be self-sufficient, he has bought acres of land in Lakwe beachfront in order to construct an off-grid estate. And what you guys are seeing is what he would be constructing. All these houses would not be using NEPA, and they will be constructed with laterite bricks. If anyone is interested, he's looking for 10 people, just 10 people to start out. The price starts at 34 million naira for 3 bedrooms, and you can pay in installments. He has a contract readily available, readily prepared, which you can share with your lawyer to know if that's a good deal or not. I mean, some people may feel like that's a lot of money, but it's a one-time payment that you no longer have to worry about electricity bill. You no longer have to worry about paying them to empty your sock away and stuff like that. It's a one-time payment that you know that from beginning to end, you know your house is complete and self-sufficient. Anyway, I asked him, by the way, I said, what if someone is interested right now and they decided to pay you, and along the way they decided they're no longer interested, they don't like what they are seeing? And he said to me that your money is refundable, as stated in the contract. He said he will give you back 95% of the money, and the remaining 5% is for administrative charges. He's using a system of interlocking bricks instead of the traditional style of construction. And this system results in a house that is 10 times stronger than traditionally built house, and also more terminally efficient. Each home would have its own fire system, and will be conveniently located by a fire hydrant in order to make it easier for fire crews to help just in case of an emergency. We'll be building common areas that will have a gym, a playground, swimming pool, ball courts, grocery stores, and so on and so forth. And more importantly, the houses in his estate will reduce global warming and human carbon footprint. So guys, if you're interested